Welcome to Missing the Point. I'm your host, Michael Marcangelo, joined alongside by the real BK Bob Kelly. And today we are performing an autopsy on the Boston Bruins season. And to do that, we have brought in a very, very special guest. She is a diehard Bruins fan and hockey fan in general, born in New England, but now living in the South. She's a Boston Bruins contributor for Fansided. Please welcome Caylee Allard. How are you, Caylee?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm missing the team a little bit. I'm still kind of recovering from it, but besides that, I'm good, I guess.
Yeah, it's the high that you got after the Capital series, right? Like you just, I was thinking, I know Bobby was too. Like this team could actually make a run, and then they fall to the Islanders in 6 games and were utterly dominated in most of them. So, as someone who is a diehard Bruins fan, someone who's written about the team, what happened? What do you think happened in that series?
I really place most of my blame on the defense. Considering the trade deadline pickups, we all know Taylor Hall was huge. Also, Krejci finally got his winger. He has Craig Smith. The secondary scoring was looking good. Offense wasn't really a problem in the Capitals series at all. And everything was going well. 5 games is, they didn't even come close. And then once we got to the second round, the injuries between Carlo and Miller, which the Miller signing still makes no sense to me, but we can save that for later, I guess. But Brandon Carlo and Kevin Miller were a huge hit, and Charlie McAvoy can't do everything. Grizzlick had a horrible game 6, and people will blame Tuukka for it, but he was injured. But yeah, it was just a defense overall. I think it's going to be crucial to get some big bodies at the blue line this offseason. And I fully believe that if everyone was healthy, I don't want to say 100% because no one's 100% in the playoffs. But if everyone were healthy, I fully believe it could have at least gone to 7 games and maybe even won the series.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more about the defense. I have to ask you, you brought up Kevin Miller already, and he's one to me that, listen, I understand why they re-signed him after they let Zdeno go. We needed that muscle on the defense. But for them to throw that kind of money at someone who already has that injury history, and then it comes up in the playoffs, is just I think you hit the nail on the head. Like that Kevin Miller signing, man, that's brutal. And I couldn't agree more with the defense. I want to know if you saw this just like we did. Was it not the most frustrating thing in the entire world that the New York Islanders seemed to have someone parked in front of our net every single possession? It was without fail. And you already brought up Tuukka. Not only that, but then everyone's blaming Tuukka for guys being 2 feet in front of his net shooting point blank shots. It's just like, was that not the most frustrating thing in the world to you?
It was, because the Bruins didn't do that. And I mean, if Tuukka can't see, he's not going to stop the puck. So it's pretty self-explanatory. And I don't know how you guys feel about getting rid of Chara either, but that's something Chara was known for. The guy's almost 7 feet tall. So I feel like the Bruins were missing that a lot. He was still playing all those minutes in Washington, and he would have been a great big body and a great mentor for the young defensemen. I understand they wanted to move forward with the young guys, but who better than your leader of 15 years to lead them there for at least one more season and make another run and be that big guy and be in front of the net. And, I get it. He's old, but he's still got it. I mean, look at Yager. Chara still got it too. So
Yeah, it's like Chara has a lot of deficiencies now. He's not fast, fine. But you know what? You know what he wouldn't allow to happen? He wouldn't allow Matt Barzal or anyone else to stand point blank in front of Tuukka and just fire shots away at him. And I mean, was there no one else on the team in your opinion, Caylee, that could have stopped that? Like, would a Frederick have helped? And if so, like, why didn't they play him?
See, I know a lot of people were calling for Frederick, but the guy has never played in a playoff game, and everyone loved him in the regular season, including me. Like Frederick Fight Club, like I'm in your kitchen, like that's great. Like that's what the Bruins need. They're known for being the big bad Bruins. but I don't know if such a young guy would be able to keep up or bring that fire out in the playoffs, because it is such a different animal, and hockey is such the NHL playoffs. I may be biased, but it's just a different animal from any other sport, let alone the NHL regular season. So I don't know if Bruce didn't want to take that risk. I mean, who knows how Frederick's nerves are? Who knows if there's something behind the scenes we didn't know, that he maybe just didn't feel comfortable with Frederick. But I don't think Frederick would have been the difference maker. Just like I also don't think Swayman would have been a difference maker, because to me, the goaltender situation was a lose-lose. So I feel like what Cassidy did with the Lions was fine, sitting DeBrusk, bringing Kuhlman in, kind of switching everyone up a little bit. But I don't think Frederick would have been like the key piece to, that physicality.
So based on what you saw, right? Because it really was a tale of two different series, and it looked like two different teams. Was this team built for a deep cup run, or did the perfection line just cover up a lot of the inadequacies that are actually on the Bruins?
I think the perfection line, even though that's the worst nickname ever, thanks to NBC, yeah. I think the first line really did carry it throughout the whole season until the trade deadline. I felt very optimistic when the second line was completed with Hall, Krejci, Smith. But you also can't rely on just two lines, just like you can't rely on one line. I always refer to the 2011 team because that was the perfect team. You have four rolling lines. The Merlot line was one of the best fourth lines the Bruins have ever had. And you need that. And the bottom six also was a problem in the second round, the bottom six scoring. So I truly think if the Bruins beat the Islanders, I could not have seen them beating Tampa, because they are just insane. So I try to console myself with that. I'm like, do I want to get heartbroken now, or do I want to get heartbroken later? So I think they still have a lot of things to work out, and I don't think this would have been the year, honestly.
So does this mean that you're rooting for the Islanders? Because isn't it better to be beat by the champions, right? Aren't you rooting for the Islanders to win the cup now?
I am rooting for them. I have Vegas winning the cup. I think they're going to win the cup, but I'm rooting for the Islanders to beat Tampa because I hate Tampa even more. And then I'm rooting for the Islanders to lose in the final. So in this series, I'm rooting for the Islanders.
Yeah, I have to say I underestimated the Islanders. I don't know about you two, but coming into the series, I did not know that they were as tough and would beat the shit out of us like they did. Because that's what they did from top to bottom. Every single game, by the end of that game, you knew that the Bruins were getting their ass whooped. And I really have to say I was also more impressed that they came out and actually beat the Lightning in game one, and they played that same exact game. It's crazy how good they are. Now, I have to ask, though, going back to your comment on the bottom six, I don't know if you knew this, but this is the scoring breakdown for that Islanders series. Ready? Pasta and Marchand each had 5 goals apiece. Krejci had 2. McAvoy, Bergeron, Smith, Coyle, and Hall each had 1, and not one other person scored on the Bruins. So literally that is more than 50% of your scoring from 2 different players, from only 2 players out of your entire roster. So like you said, so my question based off that is, do you think that this was something like we didn't have the pieces, or we just didn't play as well as we should have?
I think they just didn't play as well, because also Nick Ritchie was on fire all season, and where was he?
Yeah, he was non-existent.
The 7th player went missing when we needed him most. So that third line too, I think it was mostly Ritchie, Corrali, and Wagner. I mean, invisible. And then DeBrusk, invisible, was scratched a game. So I think it's just they didn't do what they were supposed to do. I feel like overall the roster is pretty solid. A few tweaks with the defense, and if the offense shows up and Tuukka's not hurt, we could have a serious team here. And I think next year is more important than ever. And I feel like we've been saying it every year, but the core is old. And next year, especially with the Tuukka contract and everything going on and Krejci's contract, next year has to be it, in my opinion. Like, period. That's it.
How worried are you about a potential drop off for Bergeron, right? Because he's been the best player on our team for so long, and like you just mentioned, he's getting older. I remember the commercials of him riding over the Zagan Bridge in a Zamboni with Raycroft. That's how old he is, right? So what happens to this team? So it's a two-part question. How concerned are you about a drop off in play, and what happens to the team if he's not the Bergie that we know?
I mean, I am very worried, but I don't see his game declining at all. I don't know if you saw like the NHL player vote. Him and Sidney Crosby tied for the NHL's most complete player for like right now, like current player,
which is wild.
Awesome. And I mean, Barry Trotz is accusing you of cheating on faceoffs because you're just so good at them. And I don't know. I don't see any worry with him getting older. Same with Chara. He's still old, but he still got it. I mean, the guy needs to retire, Bruin. He's the captain now. He needs to go until the end. And I think it was him that said I think he said he's going to take it year by year, which means that hopefully he's got a few more and he's feeling good. So I'm really not too worried about him at all.
It is a scary time though when you get to we're going to take it year by year phase of the career though, right? Like that's how you know we are way closer to the end than we are at the beginning.
Yeah, he's like, all right, how am I going to feel next year? We'll have to see.
The disrespect, by the way, on that Barry Trotz calling Bergeron out for cheating on the faceoffs. And then the next game, I don't know if you knew, the refs threw him out of the faceoff the first 4 faceoffs he took. I know Cassidy was livid about that, but it's just the disrespect this guy got from that is just unbelievable. I couldn't believe it when that happened.
Yeah, and it's funny how Trotz is complaining about the calls now. I don't know if you saw last game against the Lightning. He was losing it on the bench, and everyone was like posting memes of like Bruce Cassidy smiling, and they were like, I told you so. Like, it's funny how it's a big deal when they don't get the calls, but the New York Saints.
I love that. I do love that. It's funny because I think Cassidy is probably the most outspoken coach in Boston, right? Like you don't get that from Belichick. You get nothing, less than nothing. Brad Stevens was always a pro player, but he's not going to say anything about the league. But Cassidy did not pull any punches there. He knew he was going to get fined, so he went down with it. But do you think that the Islanders used any of that for fuel in their next game? Because as you mentioned, like after the Bruins take a 2-1 series lead, they don't win another game, and it was in the midst of Bergie getting thrown out of faceoffs and Cassidy feeling that they were disrespected. But do you think that was almost like a rallying cry for him? He was trying to motivate the team, and it just didn't work.
I think so. Because once Trotz made those comments about Bergeron, I think it kind of lit a fire under everyone because he's using the refs to his advantage and complaining about it. And the refs definitely heard it, and NHL refs are just something else and so incompetent. And for every team, I'm not just complaining as a Bruins fan. I mean, everyone has dealt with their brutal calls. And I feel like the Islanders do just get so lucky, whether it's puck luck or the calls are their way or just, I mean, they're a talented team, but they also have that luck there, I feel like, and they're so frustrating to play against. And it's just frustrating how Cassidy got fined for it. I mean, it was worth the $25,000. I would have started a GoFundMe for him, but yeah, I think the mind games did play a part too. So that's also frustrating.
And I don't know if you guys notice this too. The Islanders, that's their game. That's what they do, is they frustrate you to death. And they did it to the Penguins that first series. The Penguins were leading the playoffs in shots on net, exiting the first round of the playoffs. And the Bruins led the second round in shots on net. It's just unbelievable how frustrating that team was to play against. I have to ask you though, Mike, I'm stealing this from you. I'm sorry.
No.
So, all right. So our guy, Matt Barzal, right? Matt Barzal was a potential draft pick of the Bruins back in 20. All right. You know what? Fine. You take it, Mike. Go ahead.
So the reason,
you gotta ask it.
Yeah, a little bit of a backstory here is that while the Bruins were up 2-1, I said if the Bruins lose this series, it will be because of Matt Barzal. And don't forget that you had 3, not 2, not 1, 3 chances to draft him. You had the 13th, 14th, and 15th overall pick in that draft, and he was selected 16. So 1, how good was Barzal? 2, how awful was that draft? I mean, it came back to bite us.
Yeah, I mean, I know that like people want to blame Sweeney for it, but I feel like it's also so hard to tell what a player is going to become. I mean, I guess like he definitely should have done a better job, but just the names, what is it? Zaboral, DeBrusk, and Senyshyn.
Bad. It's bad.
Just say those: Zaboral, DeBrusk, and Senyshyn.
Yeah.
Over Barzal. Like that is.
Yeah. Yeah. Passing on him several times is frustrating. It wasn't like you said, not just once, but several times. But yeah, I mean, definitely super embarrassing. Never going to live it down. DeBrusk was a scratch. He might not even be staying. A lot of people do want him gone because he's just not reliable enough. I mean, I love the kid. He's had some great moments. Like I really thought he could be something in Boston, but he just hasn't proved himself, and he's been given so many chances. But yeah, it's quite painful to see Barzal absolutely tearing it up, and I'm just trying to picture him like on the first or second line and just how dangerous the Bruins.
Man, can you imagine?
It's just like, not once, fine. Everyone misses on one draft pick. I mean, that's fine. You had him 3 times and you just could not do it. So I feel like we're kind of vibing, right? Like we're friends. And I think that that could all come to an end after this. I was the leader of the Tuukka hate club, the leader for
number one guy.
Yeah, for a very long time. I'm sorry, I know, but he changed my mind a lot in the Washington series, and even more so in the Islander series. I think the reason, just for clarification purposes, the reason why I was in the Tuukka hate club is because he's just so damn talented. He is really such a good goalie, and it felt like when you needed him the most, last year excluded, that he was just never there, right? But with him playing hurt this year, and with him not wanting to be pulled, do you think that he will change the mind of fans like me in this town because of the guts that he showed? Or is he just relegated to the, yeah, you're good, but you'll never beat Tim?
Oh, Tuukka will never get the credit unless he gets the Stanley Cup as the starter. I've spoken to many Tuukka haters because they're always in my Twitter, and I have to see what they say about it, unfortunately. Yep. At this point, I just don't respond to them. It's not even worth my time. But I think Bruins fans and Boston fans in general are so spoiled. Like, I always use this goaltender's name. Look at Tristan Jarry on the Penguins. That man cannot stop a beach ball. Like, I'm not even, like, no joke. When I was watching him play against the Islanders, I was like, this is their starter in the playoffs. Like, this guy would maybe be decent in the AHL. It's that bad. Like, but no, because people complain when Tuukka, so they want him to show heart, but he showed heart by playing through an injury, but now he's stupid for doing that. So it's a lose-lose for Tuukka. Like, oh, he's a quitter. But if he sat out, they'd say, oh, he has an injury. He's faking and giving up on his team. But because he played, he's hurting the team by playing with an injury. So the guy cannot win. So, I mean, if you look up the symptoms for a torn hip labrum,
bad.
And you're a goaltender playing in a playoff game, sliding left to right, practically doing splits, sticking out your legs. People are like limping when they have torn hip labrums. It hurts to walk. And this man said, no, I'm suiting up for my team because I feel like I should. And he told Coach Cassidy he was healthy. Like, he was like, no, I'm good. And Bruce was like, he told us he was healthy. So this guy wanted to play, but that's still not good enough. And it never will be.
Yeah. So I echo those spoiled Boston sports fans. times a million. So a little fun fact about me, I'm not a Patriots fan. I'm a Cowboys fan, unfortunately. It's one of my biggest flaws in life, I know.
You guys don't know my other teams, but I can tell you later. Not all Boston.
All right. Well, see, that's what it comes down to, though, is like we have a different perspective of this. That like, so when teams make it to a championship, I never see that as like a disappointment, and I never will. If you are good enough to play for a championship trophy, that is a successful season. You have done your job. You were in it to win it to the end. It's unbelievable that no one gives credit to Tuukka for leading us to that Stanley Cup in 2013, leading us to another Stanley Cup in 2019. Yes, we didn't win it, but you know what the hardest trophy to win in sports is? Lord Stanley Cup. And this dude has brought us within one game of doing that twice. And I've been echoing this since day one with Tuukka. It's like exactly what you said about the Penguins goal. People don't know how good we really have it, having this guy in net for as long as we've had him in net. Like, you think back to all these goalies, like Jean-Sebastien Giguère, amazing with Anaheim. What was his shelf life? 3 to 4 years? Like, only the greats are around for this long. And just because he didn't get the cup, to me, doesn't make him not a great. Granted, yes, could he have shown heart in those game sevens? Could he have played better in those game sevens? 100%.
Well,
but listen, the guy got us there. What else it comes down to is like, listen, in that game 7 against St. Louis, do you remember that first quarter? Jordan Bennington stood on his goddamn head.
Yep.
We had so many opportunities. And you know what I remember about the Bruins? It's never about Tuukka Rask. It's about missed opportunities, missed open nets, which that reminds me of something else. The worst missed open net I've ever seen in my goddamn life with Pasternak. That was unbelievable. But that's always what I remember. And I'm interested to know, like, so you're not a Patriots fan? Okay, cool. So I'm interested to know, like, when you look back on those seasons, those 2013, 2019 Stanley Cup runs, do you look at those as disappointments, or do you look at those as like, listen, that was amazing. We got all the way there. Yeah, we didn't win it, but what else can you ask for?
Yeah, I couldn't have said it any better, honestly.
I'm sure you could have.
It's like 2013 against the Blackhawks. Everyone brings up the 17 seconds, like that heartbreaker. Like, but I actually have recently rewatched those 2 goals, and I think it actually was Andrew Ference and Chara defending. They were nowhere near the net. They were off in no man's land. They weren't, like, Tuukka was left out to dry. Like, the Blackhawks were hammering him. Like, it was 2 greasy goals too. Like, it was horrible goals that never should have happened. They should have never been that close to the net at that corner, sliding that puck in. I think it was Bickle, and I forget who else scored it, but that's all on Rask. But the guy is one man. Like, he's one man. And I honestly see the 2 cup finals with him as a success, because also in game 7 against the Blues, the Bruins scored 1 freaking goal. And it was Matt Grzelcyk in the 3rd period with like a few minutes left, and the Blues were already up 4. Like, nobody showed up. Yeah. No Bergeron, no anyone. No one was there. So you don't win by not scoring in game 7 of the Stanley Cup final. Like, the Bruins beat Vancouver in a shutout 4-0. That's how you win. Like, I mean, Tuukka, like you said, Tuukka isn't perfect. I'm not saying he doesn't let in soft goals or have bad days, but no player is perfect, but somehow Tuukka gets all the blame. Like, when they win, oh, Tuukka, but when they lose, oh, it's Tuukka's fault. So it's definitely a success even getting that far with him.
Yeah, I think the 2013, you just came up against a wagon, right? The Blackhawks were at the height of their powers, and they were just so good that for that run, I'll always remember it was the Toronto series, right? You're down 3 goals. and Bergeron scores in overtime. Jack, was it? It was one of the play-by-play guys that you just hear Bergeron like that. That team
that's one of my listen. I don't mean to interrupt. That's one of my favorite sports memories. Like literally since beginning of sports, I still go back sometimes. If I'm having a bad, rough day, I will go back and watch that third period of that game just because of how amazing it really was. Go ahead. Sorry.
Like that team had heart, and I would always say, and Bobby can attest to this. I don't hold 2013 against him. Like that, he played so well. I don't remember the stats. I think he was like 14-8 with a. It wasn't it
9, I think it was. It
was like 14-8 with a sub-2 goals against average. Which, by the way, like those stats are comparable to Tim Thomas in 2011. They might even be a little bit better. The Game 7 in 2019, the team didn't show up. They hung them out to dry. But that's a game where 4-1 feels too much. Like maybe like I think my outlook on him, and again I'm just speaking for me, my outlook on him would have been different if that game ended like 2-1, right? Even if they're up 2-0, you just show that you're gonna fight your ass off. So I think this year he showed guts. And do you think he had to? Like, do you think he knew all the things that we were saying? Not us, but maybe even people in the locker room after the whole bubble experience last year. For someone who writes about the team and is a far bigger puckhead than I am, do you think that was on his mind all year that I have to be here?
I truly don't think Tuukka cares what people think. He cares about his team, but he doesn't read Twitter. He's not reading articles. He's not listening to Boston sports radio, especially. But every year, like in the post loss Zoom at the end of the season, just this year, they asked all the players about Tuukka. They're like, do you think it's fair, the criticism he gets? And they're like, no, like the guy fights his butt off every single game for us. We would be nowhere without him. I mean, obviously they're not going to trash their goalie, but everyone knows, like, I know that Tuukka knows too. He doesn't know the extent or the specifics, but he knows that he's heavily criticized. And I think he feeds off it, but I don't think it's always on his mind. Like, oh, I need to please the fans. Like, I don't think he cares. He just wants to do his best because he's also very passionate and he's known to be an angry goalie. And that's another reason I hate when people say he has no passion, because I'm sure you've seen the infamous video of him throwing milk crates back in the AHL when he lost a game. And one of my favorite pictures is when I think it was the Lightning scored when Tuukka lost his stick blade and he took it off the ice and was shoving it in the ref's face. Like, look, I lost my blade. Like, he's just like angry and fiery and passionate. And that to me shows that he does care. Like, people are like, oh, like he's emotional, this and that. Like, I think it's awesome. And I think he wants to do everything he can, because the guy, if he didn't care, he wouldn't have played hurt. So that's a really big deal.
And not only play hurt, that's the thing I think gets lost in this shuffle too, is like, listen, he may not have, maybe game 5? Did we lose in 5 or 6? 6? Maybe game 6. He Swayman could have played and he would have been more effective. But for Tuukka to be out there in that Capital series in those first 5 games with a torn labrum and to perform on that level, like, this dude wasn't just performing like as a good goalie. He was magnificent. Like, there were points where, like, you would get through a 5-minute stretch of hockey and you would get to the ends of the 5 minutes and you'd be like, holy shit, Tuukka. Like, what even just happened? How did they not score a goal? That's where, like, any reservations, right? Listen, I was with you, Mike, last year in the bubble. Tuukka, I hated that. Everything about it. It was the worst. Like, the way it happened is unforgivable to me. Like, you know about me, I'm all about passion when it comes to hockey. I'm all about passion when it comes to literally everything. But for him to show up like that with that injury, I don't know about you, Caylee, but like that, to see him perform not only at a top level, but at a premier level with that injury, just to me, like, I don't think there's any I think you have to bring Tuukka back. And I know I've said before, Mike, to you, like, we need Swayman. Swayman should be in here. But, like, the more I think about it is, like, what else are you going to do? Like, you're really going to let this dude walk after what he just did for you? And after seeing another Boston team let someone else go with a bad hip and how much that cursed them down the future, after everything he gave you, you can't let him walk. Yeah, I just correlated the Celtics in there. You like that?
Yeah. No. We're aware. Do you think, is it fair to say, though, a couple things? Where do you stand on what happened last year, Caylee? So my stance, and then I'll kick it over to you. He left for a family emergency. I get it. I'll never judge that, ever. Never once. You shouldn't have a tea time the next day. You can't do that. So were the criticisms fair from us? And I guess, how did you feel about it?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I don't know if the whole golfing thing is even 100% proven or if it was just a rumor. Like, do we 100% have any photo evidence that it was Tuukka Rask? Was it just like a rumor by the Boston media? Like, did someone definitely say that was Tuukka Rask? Like, I truly don't know.
Yeah. So I can't confirm it, but I think the speculation is that he had a tea time. I believe it was like at 11:30 tea time. Somebody saw it. He was made aware that the press knew that he was there, and he stayed in the clubhouse until they left and was late for his tea time.
Okay. Yeah. So I obviously, like you said, family emergency, like totally get it. Super crazy. Like, I guess his daughter was in the hospital is the story. We don't know with what, but he like ran out of there. But I think it is pretty messed up to be golfing like the next day. Maybe I would understand like a few days later, once you got home, saw your family, made sure everything was okay. But if it definitely was like that very next day, that is very suspicious. And I guess people were also kind of upset because Tuukka had made comments saying that it's like feels weird to be there and he's not like, it's not like a real season where he's that into it or something like that. I think those comments were blown out of proportion though, because pretty much every player said that about the bubble. They're like, well, it's weird. It's tough to be away from family. It's the hardest thing we've ever done.
Yep.
But of course, when Tuukka says it, it's blown out of proportion, but that's because he did leave. But I mean, it's so hard to say. Like, I truly wish there was a video or photo of Tuukka there because I would say, yes, that's messed up. But I mean, yeah, I also don't know if last year would have been the year because, again, Tampa was pretty much unstoppable. So I try not to harp on that too much. But it did suck having him go. And I don't think Halak put on too great of a performance when he took over either.
Yeah, I think so. I can't judge him for why he left. I could judge him for how he acted while he was there and then what he did when he returned. And those press conferences when he said, I'm just happy. Like, I'm just here to have fun. It's hockey in July or August and, just playing with my friends. It doesn't even feel like it counts. You can't say that, right, and make $8 million a year. Like, you can't. You could be a fourth liner or like the 10th defenseman on the team, but as the leader, it does look bad. So, again, I was the leader of the Tuukka, the anti-Tuukka fan club. I say that, but I think I'm reforming because I don't think you can see. You can't watch what he did this year and think that man doesn't care because he had no reason to stay out there. In reality, it would have better suited him to pack it in and to just have the surgery and be ready for the start of the season. Now they're saying that he might not be back until February of next year. So do you think that he comes back or for the Bruins? Like, do they move him? And if so, like, how good can he be?
Yeah, I think it really does suck that he's hurt. He's my favorite player and I want him to finish out and have a great year. But I think there's no more perfect opportunity for Swayman to show what he's got because everyone's calling for Swayman, especially the Tuukka haters. So it is kind of nerve-wracking knowing they're going to be going without him. And people are speculating, are they going to sign a veteran goalie for now to replace Tuukka. But with this injury and being at the end of his career and his contract, it is pretty concerning. especially you're coming January, February. Once you get to February and like, I don't know, the whole All-Star game this year, but like after the All-Star break and all that, like end January, beginning February, that's when it's like crunch time. Like we got playoffs in a couple months. These games really matter. So it's going to be interesting to see if Swayman can, I'm assuming it'll be Swayman, get them into that position. But I still think it's the perfect opportunity to ease Swayman in, and then hopefully when Tuukka's back, he can pick up any slack or play a lot for the remainder of the regular season. So it's concerning, but I also think it's a good opportunity to see what Swayman has and if he can really take the starter position.
What do you think of Swayman? So, because I asked that because I think your Twitter handle is 2KA right? So like you love Tuukka, and you can find Caylee at 2K on Twitter. But I guess my question would be, do you think that Boston Bruins fans overrated Swayman because they don't like Tuukka, or is he someone that could be his replacement moving forward?
I absolutely love Swayman. I think he's awesome. Okay. I think the Bruins organization is very lucky. The Bruins have been very lucky with goaltending throughout very recent history. Yeah. You know, it's never that like Tim Thomas, like, and I love Tim Thomas too. Like I had his jersey. Like I guess I'm just a big goalie person, but I mean the 2011 performance was one of the best ones I've ever seen. But yeah, I mean I think Swayman is the future. I think he plays like Tim Thomas, and I think that's why the Tuukka haters love him, because he has kind of that sporadic style and like he's like an acrobat kind of, and it's kind of crazy. But he gets it done. And I actually listened to he did a podcast with Billy Jaffe. It's called and Andrew Raycroft. They have their own podcast. I think it's called The Morning Brew or something. And Swayman went on there. And he is just the nicest, coolest kid. Like he literally said, like, I don't get nervous. Like he's like, I just have like a great time. And what I really like is how he said what's most important for him now that he made it to the NHL is like recognizing fans and like giving a kid a puck or like waving to someone. Like he is just like so for the people. And I think he's going to be such a great Boston athlete. Like just listening to him, I was like, I love this kid. But I really think he's the future. And when we started him this year, I didn't even feel nervous, and he's brand new. Yeah. Like this guy just got called up, and I don't know about you guys, but when I saw him in net, I was like, oh, we're good. Like he does not make me feel nervous or concerned at all.
Yeah, it's a completely different feeling. So I'll never forget last year, my buddy texted me when Vladar came in the playoffs. He texted me and went, it's Vladar time. And I was like, all right, let's see how it goes. 3 minutes later, I was like, uh-oh. No. And you're right, Swayman does just have a different feel to him. I couldn't agree more, though. Listen, I'm going to parlay this into another question in a little bit, but I think Don Sweeney is the luckiest GM in the entire world with the luck he got with goaltenders, man. To have Tim Thomas like he did, I know that wasn't Sweeney then, but then to parlay that right into Tuukka Rask with the absolute steal of a trade that you got from Toronto, and to have this guy in net for all this time, I just think like I don't dislike Sweeney a lot. I do not like Sweeney as our GM, but I just feel like you're right when you say the Bruins have gotten such luck when it comes to goaltending, and the fact that they now found this kid Swayman who has such swag, man. You're right. Like when I heard that interview that said like, I don't get nervous, I don't feel that. That is the energy that you want from a goalie. Like if you think back, I'm going to probably lay this in the Patriots for all you Patriots fans out there. When you think back about Tom Brady, about what was so special about him, when he fell asleep in that 2001 Super Bowl locker room because he was so relaxed, didn't realize the moment he was in, and he took a nap. Like, I feel like that's something that just seeing the personality of Jeremy Swayman, that's something that would happen with him. Like Game 7 Stanley Cup, he'd be like, yeah, I mean, I took a nap before. I don't know. I was feeling really relaxed. And you're like, yeah, that's the kind of guy you want as your goalie. So, like, I love the Swayman train. I think Tuca being there is such a what's the word I'm looking for? Is such
Positive.
Positive. Thank you. It is very positive for Swayman for him to be there because it's like, I've already been in these situations. Here's how you handle them, and then you take that Swayman swag and put it on top of that. It's just like, yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready for Swayman.
What's your question, Bobby?
Oh, right. So no. The question, no, but like, all right. So my question is, as lucky as Sweeney has got, all right. I have been on this guy. Was it we can talk about that 2017 draft where he passed over Barzal.
15,
whatever it was. 2015 draft where passed over Barzal. But the moves that he has made in the last 2 years just drive me absolutely insane. Like, listen, you can talk about the Taylor Hall trade. I don't give him any credit for that because if anyone was ever like, hey, I'll give you Taylor Hall for that scrub and a second round pick, I'd be like, yeah, well, I think I'll take that deal. I just feel like the way that he has handled this team, the fact that we had to wait 7 years for a premium winger to be beside David Krejci, that we had to replace Zdeno Chara with Kevin goddamn Miller, who already was an underachiever before you re-signed him. And then you look at the lack of depth he put behind this defense this year. It is just like as soon as one guy went down, you saw what happened in that Islanders series. So I need to know your opinion as someone who's around the team a lot, who you follow Bruins hockey passionately. Am I off base here? Is this me just overanalyzing the team, or is this serious mistakes that this dude has made over the past few years?
No, I think you're totally on base. I mean, I think it could be way worse. Like, it's not like he's driving the team into the ground, but I feel like he just does the bare minimum. I feel like he tries to find the most obscure random player and like puts a lot of faith in them. And then he's like, this is going to definitely work. Like, I feel like he just like closes his eyes and like throws a dart at a dartboard and whoever it lands on, he's like, all right, we're going to try to acquire this guy. But like, other than the Taylor Hall thing, which I agree with you, it wasn't all Sweeney. Like, Taylor Hall would have done anything to get out of Buffalo, and Buffalo, I mean, yeah, like Taylor Hall, you could have given him $5 and he'd be like, all right, I'm gone. So I don't really get, like, everyone was like, Sweeney's a god. But other than the Taylor Hall acquisition, I can't even name like any significant pickups that I was happy with. I mean, I think the Craig Smith pickup turned out to be really good. At first, I was really skeptical with that offseason pickup because I was like, Craig Smith, like, I've really never even heard of this guy. And he got Craig Smith and Jared Tenorti from Nashville. And I think Tenorti's like fine. He's a physical guy, but he wasn't good enough to be in the top D or make a difference at all. But yeah, I think you're on base as Sweeney. I think it could be worse. I don't think he's the worst ever, but I don't think he's good enough to where he's making significant moves to help the team get a cup. And they spoke about that. Him and Cam Neely kind of came clean and they admitted they messed up in the 2015 draft. And they also said, we need to make better moves. So they know it too. So
it's just like Chiarelli, when Chiarelli left, right? I think he left with such a bad taste. He put such a bad taste in Boston Bruins fans' mouths, right? And in reality, after he left, he'd been to 2 cups in 5 years. Sweeney's not as good as Chiarelli.
Yeah, I think so. Caylee, I don't mean to take it.
No, that was obviously to you, Bobby, for sure.
But like, so listen, I think we were really hard on Chiarelli when it happened. The Sagan trade, that happened for a reason. Like, listen, I love Tyler Sagan. I love watching him play hockey. He is an amazing hockey player. I don't know if it's true.
Like, you can't sleep with
supposedly he banged Nathan Horton's wife.
You can't do that.
All know this rumor.
You can't bang the token Bruin for our 2011 Stanley Cup player of life. And like, I get that. That's what everyone always brags on him on, is that Sagan trade. Chiarelli made some moves, man. And honestly, I think if Chiarelli was still the GM, yeah, what he did is he went for broke. he always went for broke. He was gonna go get you that guy no matter what. And if Neely wanted him to go get him, he was going to get him. And I feel like that's the opposite of Sweeney. Is like the only reason we got Taylor Hall is because we got Lazar and a second round pick along with it. If it was just Bjork for Hall and like maybe a first round pick for Bjork, like I feel like he would have been like, no, I'm good. That's too much risk for me to take. And that's where I feel like I just fall with Chiarelli. Also, the fact that Zenshin, for the rest of my life, that name is going to be ingrained in my head. Like, listen, I get Zaboral, I get DeBrusque, they have potential. But like, I've never even heard of this guy, Zachary Zenshin. And Matt Barzal is literally ending my playoff life. And I just can't deal with him anymore. It's not going to happen. He's not going anywhere. And I know he's not going anywhere because like, all the interviews and everything like that. But like, man, if I've ever wanted a GM out in Boston Bruins history, I want Sweeney out of here. I just want someone else who's going to look at this differently, look at this perfection line and be like, we need to make moves to win this cup, because it's going to be so depressing in 10 years when we look back on this and we see this top line that we had. And it's look back in historical history is like the best first line in 20 years in Boston Bruins history. And we had them together for literally over a decade and won one fucking Stanley Cup. It's just like, I know this sounds spoiled. It sounds very Boston-ish of me. But like, God damn it, man. Like, Sweeney, come on. Let's go for broke. Let's try, man. Let's do something.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Like you said, it's been a decade, and that's not good enough with the amount of talent this team has had. And with, Bergeron and Marchand, I hate to say deserve, because everyone's like, nobody just deserves it. You got to earn it. But Bergeron and Marchand really need one more. And I would cry forever if Tuukka got his as well. And Krejci, of course, too. I mean, these guys, even Marchand said he's like we're getting old, like time is ticking. And you think Sweeney, like you said, like an alarm would go off, like, holy crap, like I have to complete the missing puzzle and get these missing pieces in here so we can really have a chance. Like, it doesn't seem like he cares enough. He's like, oh, we'll give this guy a try. Like, that's not good enough. You cannot half-ass things as a GM.
So as we've now kind of stumbled upon the 10-year anniversary of the 2011 Cup, right? How crazy is it for you to believe, A, that was 10 years ago, that we haven't won a cup since, but B, that we have now had the number 1 overall pick and the number 2 overall pick of that draft on the Bruins in the last 10 years? How crazy is that?
Yeah, no, it is crazy. So the number 1 was what again?
Taylor Hall.
Yeah. Hall
yes.
was one.
Yes. True.
Number 2 is Howard Sagan.
Yes. Sorry, I missed your question, but yes, because I remember it was either Taylor or Tyler. It was like the battle of Taylor and Tyler, like who would they get? And obviously Sagan was chosen, but at the end of all this, people are upset about the Sagan trade, but we know there was a very good reason for it. But we may have never gotten Hall, and now Hall may be part of the team that leads us to the Cup. So you just never know. I think it might work out in our favor. This offseason really is so important, but it is crazy to come like full circle to that like Taylor-Tyler thing. It's interesting to see.
Also, I guess my question would be, because I'm really, really, really excited for Taylor Hall on this team. But the last time I was really excited, they didn't keep him, and it was Sagan. Do you think that they keep Taylor Hall? Like, how much do they have to bend to make sure that they make him happy and they sign him to a long-term deal?
Well, Hall said that he's not looking for the money, which I think is 100% the truth. Because he's having the time of his life. He said the guy hasn't stopped smiling since he's been in Boston, and him and Craig Smith and Krejci are such a great trio. And he said he's never had this much fun playing with line mates before. And he's like, this is where I want to be. I'm playing winning hockey. He said he's been in the league for it's over 10 years now, and he's finally winning. So I think Hall will 100% take a team-friendly deal, and it's not going to cost much. And if Sweeney lets him walk, then he truly deserves the boot, because you cannot let this guy go. Like, I cannot, like, and especially if Krejci goes after he finally has his wingers with Smith and Hall, like, that second line has to stay intact no matter what. Like, they have to come up with something with the cap. And I think Taylor Hall 100% will take a lesser deal in order to stay and keep everyone happy.
I hope that you're right, because I'm usually like the glass is half empty type of guy on this show when it comes to anything Boston sports related. Which brings me to one of my last questions. So you mentioned that you're not a full Boston sports fan, that you are a Bruins fan. Now, I'd like to learn a little bit more about what teams you support, but I'd like to guess beforehand, if that's okay. I just hope that our friendship's not on the line here, because we put a lot of work into it. But for football. For football, I'm going to guess the Giants.
Yes.
Oh,
really? Wow, what a guess. So
I hate the Cowboys.
Oh, man.
Like, that is the Patriots' kryptonite, Caylee. Of course it's the Giants.
I am from Connecticut, in case you don't know.
Yep.
Listen, I have to ask, though. Wait, do you hate the Eagles more than you hate the Cowboys?
I think I hate the Cowboys more. But I love Dak Prescott. I will give you that. I love Dak.
I'll take that. I'll admit that.
It's the only good thing I'm saying about them.
I only respect the Giants because they beat the Patriots twice.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah.
Everyone loves the Giants for that. Everyone was a Giants fan today.
I just wouldn't say everybody, because I sure as hell didn't. Now, I think the next one. So we're going along these mutually assured destruction lines. I think that you're a Yankees fan.
Yes.
Oh, shit. I mean, this is
unfortunately.
Craig, we might have to cut this part out of the podcast.
No. This is perfect.
No. I'm joking.
I'm just canceling the whole show.
We don't. But we don't. I mean, you see that it says on her social media platform that she's from Connecticut, so that leads you to believe that if she's not an avid Boston sports fan, that she also hates those other two sectors of Boston sports. Now, for basketball, I don't know. I'll ask you, like, what team do you root for basketball?
So I do not like the NBA. I don't watch basketball. I really don't. So I kind of just pick and choose who I want to win. But yes, I'm not just saying this. I always root for the Celtics.
That's fine.
Because TD Garden, love TD Garden. And I'm like, okay, if I'm going to like be chaotic, I might as well be like 50-50, like to Boston, to New York. Maybe I can get away with that, because I'm like, oh, I'm half and half. So I truly don't really care about the NBA though. But when the Celtics were playing, I wanted them to win. So
were you still in Connecticut in January or February of 2008?
Yes, I was.
Okay. So like, for those of you listening at home, that's when the Giants ended the undefeated season of the New England Patriots. So I assume that you probably have friends that are Patriot fans, right? Like, what was that like? How happy were, I mean, just throwing it in their face, because I said this way back. We used to have a college show that the Patriot fans had become Yankee fans, which I don't mean as an insult to you, but we just expected to win. Everyone else sucked. So what was it like to be able to just look at one of your friends' face and be like, hey, how'd that feel?
It's really interesting because I get to be on both sides of it. Like, especially on Twitter, like all my like Bruins friends are tweeting about the Sox and like the Pats and the Celtics. And I'm like, I don't really tweet about my New York teams because my following is like 98% Boston and they would crucify me. But it was so funny to like be able to brag about it. And they're like, well, you're a Bruins fan, so it doesn't make sense and you're weird and this and that. And trust me, I always get roasted for it. But I'm not going to lie, those two Super Bowls were one of the greatest moments. And the second Super Bowl was that 2012?
Well, it was the 2011 season, so it was 6 months after the Bruins won. So that was a great year.
So I saw the
Mike
Bruins
remembers. Believe me, Mike remembers.
I saw the Bruins win the Cup, and then I saw the Giants win the Super Bowl. Oh my God, I was so spoiled.
Against the Patriots. Yep, that's the key part of that. Ripped my heart out.
It's very weird. And I'm like, why couldn't I just be all New York or all Boston? But I kind of love it because it keeps things interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, as a Patriot fan, again, I think it's, I love having the one-up card on everybody. I hate talking to a Giants fan, man, because I just have nothing to say. Like, yeah, Brady's won 6 Super Bowls. He's like, well, he should have had 8. Yeah. How's 18-1 feel? Well, Caylee, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. I do want to give you the chance to tell people where they can find you and how they can follow you.
Yeah, sure. So I write for Fansided. I write for Causeway Crowd about the Bruins. So the website for that is just causewaycrowd.com. And then you can follow all my crazy tweets and memes on my Twitter. And it's the number 2 Karask. So Tuukka Rask.
Awesome. Well, for the Real BK Bob Kelly, for our special guest Caylee Allard, I am Michael Marchand saying thank you so much for listening to Missing the Point, and we'll talk to you later.